Hey guys, this is Bruce, and welcome to Convocourses podcast. Today I have a special guest on, my man Chris from TechWoke. He's an information system security officer, and I'm going to take this opportunity to have another perspective on how to get in this field, what are challenges that you have in GRC and in information system security officer type work, and cybersecurity in general. And I would like to first, just like I did before, is just get a perspective, like what was his journey like, so you can have an idea of where you stand in this. And without further ado, Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hey, Bruce, thank you for bringing me in. I work as an information system security officer. I've been doing it for almost 4 years now. I've done everything from creating documents, poems, interacting with different stakeholders, just different things like that. So it's good to be on. Thank you, Bruce, for bringing me on.
Hey, not a problem, man. Could you walk us through your journey? How did you get to cybersecurity of all things? Like why not IT or network engineering? How did you get to this path right here?
Yeah, so I graduated from college. After I graduated college, I was working as a background investigator, a PM, all types of stuff. And I always thought to myself, like, I knew that it wasn't no job security in what I was doing. So I was like, okay, I want to do something with my life. So I was looking into IT. It didn't really interest me as much, but I would study people like Kevin Mitnick, if you heard of him. He's like a super hacker. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to do something like that. I'm like, this dude is cool. Or I just look at these little nerds with the hoodie on, and just break into things. So
Right, right.
so I was like, let me get into cybersecurity. So it took me a long time because the first thing I thought was, okay, I need to get my master's degree. So my master's degree would get me into cybersecurity, but I was in it for a rude awakening. I applied for after I got my master's degree from University of Baltimore. I was like, okay, I can get a job. So I applied to almost 100 jobs, and I noticed that I kept getting turned down, turned down, turned down, and it was because they kept saying, oh yeah, you need a security plus. So I got the security plus. Next thing you know, I'm still getting turned down for jobs. So I'm like,
Wow.
man, what's going on? So that's and then also too, so I just started talking to my friends, and I was like, okay, what am I doing wrong? So they said you got to pick a field we want to get into. So my friend was an information system security officer, and he kind of broke it down what you need to do. You get your security plus. I already had my clearance at the time, and he just told me just pay attention to NIST guidelines, uh, practice how to do a poem, and then after I kept doing that, that's how I got into kind of the information or GRC type of work.
Wow, man. That's an awesome journey, and I would like to. I get so many questions about like how to actually break into the field. So, I mean, your site, for those of you who don't know, Chris has a podcast. Link in description. Um, Check it out. It's called TechWoke, where he's actually introducing other people who are in this field, getting their perspective, how they get in. Great resource if you're trying to get into GRC, which is an incredible field. It's been an incredible field for me. It is difficult to get into, but once you actually get in, you there's so many different paths that you can get into. Now, what like now you do compliance, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is the difference? But would you say is the difference between a compliance job, if there's any, and the cybersecurity stuff that like hackers and all that kind of stuff? Like, what's the difference? Like, a lot of times, the people who are asking me questions, they don't know what questions to ask because they don't realize that this field is pretty large. So, what's the difference between what you do and like hacking or something? Like, what's some of the more popular aspects of cybersecurity?
So with GRC type of work, there's regulations that have to go into bringing in a new system. Some of the steps are kind of and we use something called the NIST guidelines in the DoD. And the steps we use is prepare, categorize, select, implement, assess, authorize, and monitor. Uh, that's kind of things we go into the RMF. So for example, yeah, you see a lot of these cybersecurity attacks going on, like what we just had. What was it? The MGM. So, what our job we have to do, we have to go through those steps, go through the guidelines to make sure certain things are secure, to make sure that we're not being hacked.
Right.
And that's kind of the job that we do. It's more of like we got to make sure documentation, do research, things like that, and just making sure we're getting that to some of the, because a lot, and you know this, Bruce, when you're talking to some of these managers, they're just trying to push things through. We just have to make sure it's secure. Like for example, I was in a position not too long ago, and we was trying to use something called SQL Express. So you know, with SQL Express, it sends things to Microsoft. So if we're going to put something in place that sends things to Microsoft, we got to make sure there's things that being in place so it won't be our data won't be transmitted. So we're more on the compliance side. With hacking, it's kind of like they're break. It's more of a technical position. So they use something called Kali Linux. They're going into the domains. They're looking inside data. They're kind of doing a lot of they like to look from the outside and just like study people. Sometimes they get your email, so it's more of like they're more. It's a more technical position where they're trying to break into the system. And for GRC, we're more trying to protect it, make sure it's compliant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question for you, so that we can get deeper into compliance. Give me an example of a um, a challenge that you faced doing GRC type work. Like what kinds of things would somebody coming in who's new have to face? Like what is one of your biggest challenges, for example?
When I first got into the field, one of the challenges I had to, and I name a couple for you. So the main thing is when you first get in, you don't know who the stakeholders are, and you don't know uh, who you need to talk to. And I
Absolutely.
took, and it just so the audience would know, I took your course in the beginning, and I see in your course you put in, and in the course you actually mentioned like a create a stakeholders list. So I had to create a stakeholders list of who's in charge. Because what I would do is I would go reach out, for example, to like the Red Hat SME. And the Red Hat SME would tell me, and I'm saying subject matter expert for the audience, they would tell me, oh, I'm not the person in charge. So I'm like, huh? Then I'll go to the PM and I'll ask him. He said,
Right.
yeah, that is the guy. And then I have to go back to that guy and tell him, oh, yeah, you're the guy. So, just back and forth because they know I don't know who it is. After a while, when you get that list, you know who it is. And then also, too, another issue I deal with is just trying to break down uh, why we shouldn't do things to certain stakeholders so they can understand whether it's a PM or a government person. You just got to make sure you break it down. And what I do is I would just try to talk to them like I was a 2 year old in a way, not in a bad way, but I would just try to break it down so they can understand what's going on and what if it can be bad or good. Most of the time it's bad, but just want to make sure you can break it down so they can understand.
So one of the challenges you faced was finding out who to talk to, who are the stakeholders, and then communicating with those stakeholders at their on their level so they
Yeah.
understand what is going on. Man, exactly. That's exactly right. And we were talking a little bit before this, and he said, "Oh yeah, I took your car." I'm like, "What the hell?" That's crazy. But I appreciate that, man. Other questions. I'm just going through like some of the more common questions that I get for people who are trying to get into this field, the cybersecurity professionals or GRC. And I see that you got the Security Plus. How has that certificate? Well, first of all, what other certifications do you have, and how has how have those certifications influenced your career? And what would you say was like the biggest certification that you've gotten that kind of changed the trajectory of your career? What would you recommend somebody get as far as a certification?
Yeah, so if you're trying to get into GRC, the Security Plus is a great certification to have. For any
I agree.
cybersecurity expert. I see on your social media you also recommend the A plus. I will also recommend it too, so you can understand the IT fundamentals of IT, and then get the Security Plus. Because when you get into the field, when I first got into it, I didn't understand nothing. Well, I knew what they were talking about with the Security Plus. It's when you get into cyber, it's a different language. But still,
Yeah.
the Security Plus helps you prepare for that, but you still have to learn like the acronyms and things like that. They talk
Yeah.
really, really fast. It's like Chinese in a little bit. But right now, I only currently have the Security Plus. I'm working to get my CSSP. I think the Security Plus is a good cert. Once you start getting up to upper management, I think the CISM, CSSP, things like that are good certs to have in GRC.
Yeah, absolutely. The CISSP is awesome. It's like the gold standard, is one of the top ones. very marketable. But other ones would be CISA is really great. CISM is really good. Those are some of the best certifications right now to get for GRC work. And Security Plus is an incredible certification. Like that definitely breaks ground. Um, Let me see. For somebody who's interested to get getting into this, you recommended the Security Plus, so that's great. Um, do you know anybody who's gotten? Here's a question for you. Okay, so I get a lot of questions about a certification called the Google IT support certification, and I don't have it, and I don't know anybody personally who has it. Do you know anybody who has it? I mean, this is just honest curiosity. I don't. I'm just trying to, figure out what's going on. Do you know anybody who has it, and did they get a job with it? And how much
Um,
around how much did they make if they got one with it?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Bruce. I keep hearing about this Google search on TikTok and YouTube. I have not come around anybody that had it, so I don't know what's going on with that. I keep hearing it all the time, but I looked into it. But I even put it on Google. I put it on Indeed. I typed into Google cyber
Yeah.
search to see if it pop up. It didn't pop up, so this is my opinion. I don't think it's needed.
Yeah, and I don't want to, like, a few of people who follow me said, yeah, I have it, or I have a friend who has it and they got a job making 40 or whatever. And that's good, if that's the case. But I know people who have the Security Plus who got a job, of course, experience, right? Like, you can't just have, like, one of your shorts, you said, you can't just get a Security Plus and then suddenly magically you have a job. It's not how it works, right? And I totally agree with you. Actually, what's your take on that one?
And yeah, that happened to me. I applied to almost 300 jobs. I applied to so many jobs, and they kept telling me no. And I had a security plus, and I thought like the way people made it seem. I thought when I get the security plus, everybody was going to start. Hey, Chris, we want you, bring you here. I would get on the interview, and they'd be like, "Oh, I have a security plus." They'd be like, "Oh, okay." They don't even ask about it sometimes. You know, the main thing they ask for is what do you know how to do, experience. But if I would recommend to people that's trying to get into GRC, I would go. This is exactly what I did. And first off, see if you have any friends, family that's in GRC. Talk to them and get advice. 'Cause that's the first
Right.
thing I did. I looked at their resume and I compared it to my resume. And then when I started learning the things they do, or I would just
Exactly.
ask them. I'd be like, "Hey, can you teach me this?" Like for example. I keep seeing something when you type in GRC, and I recommend to people looking for jobs for GRC, just type in GRC and Indeed. You'll see that they'll ask for you got experience with the NIST guidelines. You can literally Google the NIST guidelines and read it, or they'll be like poems. I have videos on my channel also. I think Bruce does too on how to create a
Yeah.
poem, how to put milestones in. Just look that up. Even EMAS, there's a free training, and I put a video on my channel too. Anybody want to check it out? Where you can go get a free EMAS training just so you can put it on your resume, say have experience. Well, you don't have to say
That's
you have
awesome.
experience, but you know of it, and just to show that you're willing to get the job. Because with security
Absolutely.
plus is it's okay, but they want to see once you get into cybersecurity, it's not like they're going to tell you how to do things. You got to learn how to do it on your own. If they see you doing it, then that's even better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So other questions here. How do you stay ahead of the curve for regulations? I know as a GRC person, as an information system security officer, you have to make sure the organization stays within compliance of certain standards or regulations. How do you stay on top of all of this information?
Now, for me, LinkedIn is a good source. I follow NIST on LinkedIn. I follow a lot of GRC specialists. Also on the NIST website, you can get a newsletter, and they'll send you little things. Like I think recently they added something with AI in the NIST guidelines, things like that. But for me, I just follow a lot of content creators. I'm constantly reading myself. I'm studying a lot of emerging technologies. Like for example, AI is a new thing they're starting to bring in. RPA, I would say more automation tools are more popular than AI right now, but
Hmm.
I'm just studying it just so I can understand because at the end of the day, they're going to start like bringing it in. Like UiPath is another popular tool that people are using. So I'm studying all these automation tools and I'm just reading it on my own. There's times I'm just at my desk watching a YouTube video on explaining to me how AI works or different types of AI or RPA or things like that. Because I have to talk in these meetings and they have to make sure I know what I'm talking about. So that's what I do. I'm always staying up to date.
Same here. I'm I love to look into the emerging technologies. So by the time it comes out, like with cloud stuff, I'm trying to show my age here, but when cloud stuff just started, people start jumping on the bandwagon. I'd already been researching like the technologies that came together that made the cloud tech. So I knew what it was all about. And then same thing with the AI stuff. I was obsessed with them. I'm like, man, what is this all about? And I started doing my own research right now, just doing like figuring out what's going on. How can we use this in our field? So by the time it actually gets introduced to the Department of Defense or whoever, whatever my client is, I'm very familiar with what's going on. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, Chris. Let me see. What other questions do I have here? Um, so one of the questions that I get a lot, and this is a difficult one. Um, if a person has no experience and they're trying to get into this field, what do you recommend that they do? Because we keep saying, we keep beating this drum about, look, you have to have experience to get in, and just having a security plus or whatever certification is not going to be. That's not it. How do we? So where do they go from there? From here, like how do they actually get the experience?
Okay, I'll break it down. I'll just break it down how I do it. So it's gonna be a little minute. So the first
Okay.
thing I would do, and in our field, I work for as a DoD contractor, a contractor that works for the government. For our field, usually a secret, top secret, are kind of the first requirements to get in a GRC position or become an ISSO in our field. So what I would do first, and what a lot of people I know do, they would go get a clearance. So first off, I would get the clearance. I'll go work for. There's a lot of companies, security companies that, like for example, Intercom. Intercom in the DMV area, Intercom gives a lot of people top secret clearances. That's what the State Department. Just for anybody that's looking at they in the DMV area, just type it in on Indeed. Just type in DC, Maryland, Virginia, or something like that. First thing you need a clearance. So the second thing you would need, since it's a requirement for the DoD, and I'm only speaking for the DoD, is
Mm-hmm.
I would get your Security Plus. So once you get your Security Plus, get that. So next thing I would do if somebody don't have no experience, because I didn't have no experience either, I would just go on Indeed, type in ISSO, and just type in your area. Just see what they're looking for. For me working in the DoD, EMAS is popular. EMAS is a cybersecurity management tool.
Mm-hmm.
So with EMAS, you can there's a lot of free training on EMAS. I have one on my channel, so you can watch that video on EMAS and it'll break down how to use EMAS. You can put it on your resume saying you know of it, but I wouldn't say you know how to use it, but just say you did the research to get the training. Then I would start a lot of the jobs they ask for a plan of actions. So a plan of action or POAMs is how you remediate a vulnerability. So what I would do is just find a some type of some type of pamphlet or something that can break down how a poem is structured. I have one on my channel, and you just break it down like you put a description, the milestones on how you remediate this vulnerability. For example, a poem, like I'll give you an example for a poem, and this is what I deal with on a daily basis. Sometimes there can be a cat one vulnerability, and for example, I'm gonna say Red Hat. So it's a Cat 1 Red Hat vulnerability. This vulnerability won't be fixed currently. It's going to be fixed in the next 3 months once the patch is made available. So you can create a poem, put a milestone, say, and the milestones can say, "Hey, I'm reaching out to this system administrator. I'm gonna follow up with this system administrator, and once this was complete, then I'm going to close out this poem." That's how you remediate. So that's you can learn how to do poems. NIST guidelines. Just all you got to do is free. Just go on Google, type in NIST guidelines. Now we're on revision 5 right now. Pop it up, just start reading it. It tells you how to create plans, create policies, and it also tells you how to look at controls and test controls and things like that. So, and then also don't put it on Google. YouTube is your friend. Just use YouTube and just check out Bruce Brown. He got a good course on it too. So that's what I would do.
Appreciate you, man. I get that question a lot, and I have to. What I normally tell people is start where you are. Start with the basics. If you're not trying to go into DoD, Chris gave a great breakdown of how to get into federal government, which is also where I work. And that's great advice because once here's why Chris's advice is good. because once you have that clearance, it's going to eliminate a lot of the competition. And a lot of times, especially contractors, they have to they're going to have to pay for your clearance. So if you actually get a clearance, that's one less thing that they have to do. So it opens up the field for, sometimes they'll put you in a position and then they'll train you on the job. Some organizations that I've worked for do that for new employees, but having that security clearance is one good way to get your foot in the door, especially if you live in the DMV area. Let me see here. Other questions here. Are there any trends that you're looking forward to in cybersecurity, and um, and have you started messing around with them?
Yeah, in my field, we're kind of getting more into the cloud. So I'm trying to learn. I've got to get my Azure cert to do that. Like I said, RPA, RPA and then AI, they're not settled on it yet, but I'm just can't wait to start working with AI. A lot of people keep saying is AI going to replace cybersecurity, and I'm not. I don't think it's going to replace it no time soon. Probably like 100 years from now, man.
Right, right. I
Yeah,
mean,
but I'm excited.
even if they it quote unquote even if it makes some headway into our market, there's got to be it itself has to have some sort of regulation, and that's one thing that they're battling with right now is the safety features on it, which is regulations. So there's gonna have to be somebody who's there to turn those screws and do those tasks. So that's still us. So
Yeah.
I have to agree with you there. For anybody starting out in this field, is there any piece of advice that you would give them to get in to get into IT, to get in cybersecurity, and to get into GRC?
Just start with the basics. Just I think help desk helps out a lot of people get into the field. Help desk gives you the technical experience. It gives you working with different people, different stakeholders. And I think, and if I can go back myself, I would have started with help desk. I kind of got thrown into GRC, and if I got the help desk first, it would have made my job a lot better. And just keep watching people on YouTube, watch podcasts of people that's in the field. It helps you out. But the help desk is the best place to start for anybody. And from what me talking to people, help desk in the private sector doesn't require any clearances or anything. You can go to your own job and be like and try to work with your own job help desk. Or even these big companies like Microsoft, they have a help desk. And just reach
Exactly.
out to them and get with help desk. I would definitely go back to help desk. If I could go back, I would have did the help desk first. Who knows? I might even stay there and just move my way up. But cyber's a good place to be at.
That is a great piece of advice. So a lot of folks are not in our industry, and if you guys are just now tuning in, I'm talking to Chris from TechWoke. He's an information system security officer, just like myself. He has a podcast. Um, Link in description. Check him out. And we're talking to somebody. It's a unique opportunity to talk to somebody who bypassed the help desk and is now a GRC person. You are rare, my friends. You are rare. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever on how to get in this field, this is a field. Why would you want to get in this field? So this is a field that pays upwards of six figures, mid six figures, high six figures. All right. Um, and you can work from home depending on your job. Now, not every job is going to start that way, but six figures working from home, job security. Even if your contract lets up, you can go to another contract. It's been a great opportunity for me that is benefit my family, myself, and anybody who's interested in this. This is a great time to get in. Like there's all of this fear about AI or whatever, but like Chris says, I don't believe that it's gonna take over our jobs in any time soon. And even if it starts to make some headway into our market, like somebody has to have it. Still, that has to have GRC. That technology has to have GRC. Okay, let me take some questions here. I've got some folks watching me on TikTok, so I don't. If you want to stick around, Chris, and answer some of
Now
these.
stick around.
these
I stick
okay,
around. And
okay. Let me see here. Let me see if I have some questions. Live questions. Let me see. Somebody said. Okay, here we go. Darius says, I have two associate's degrees, cyber crime, digital forensics, and information technology general studies. Any advice? Any advice on you trying to get into this field? Is that what you mean to get a job? I'm assuming that's what you mean, Darius. Um, Chris, I'll let you go first on that one. What advice would you
Okay.
give somebody with two associate's degrees, one in digital forensics, one in cyber crime studies?
I would first thing I would do is just identify what you want to do. It can help it a little better. Like if you want to do network engineering, if you want to get into cyber, if you want to kind of IT, there's like different paths you can go. So then if you're say for example, if you're into networking, I would just get your CCNA. CBT Nuggets is actually good. It has a lot of VMwares on you can practice on a network, things like that. But I would first identify what you want to do, get the search that's in what you want to do, and just go on Indeed and just see what it requires to do the position and just start getting
Absolutely.
that experience.
Absolutely. And it really depends, Darius, if you're still here. It depends on where you are. If you are still in a school environment, one of the things I always encourage students to do is to become a working student to get that experience under your belt. Another thing you can do is if you're real savvy with the tech, you can do some freelancing on your own, like start your own business, and you could put that all the stuff that you do under that business, whether it's removing malware or fixing people's computers or whatever, as a freelancer, you could put that on your resume as well as experience. And then another thing you can do is start learning, crack open some books, learn from like Chris was saying, go learn about EMAS, learn about other free tools that you can download, like Nessus Tenable. You can download it for like 7 days and start learning how to scan. Put that on your resume as that like you're using it. And there's other scanners that are actually free that, and you could use those ones on your resume as well, to show that, hey, I have the skill set to do this. I've been doing this for a while. Okay, he says I'm looking to get into SOC analyst role and eventually a red team. So that's what he wants to do. So how, from where you're at, how would you get in a SOC analyst role? One of the things you can do, there's a certification called the CYSA Plus, which is for SOC analysts specifically. So that might be a notch in your belt. Another thing is red teaming is basically ethical hacking. So there's a few certifications that you could use for that. Um, One would be one of the more popular ones, the CEH, and then another one is OCSP. Kali Linux certifications are good, and then you want to learn the tools of the trade and the methodologies of pen testers. Um, Another thing you can do is you could be a freelancer and do some pen testing. Now, if you're going to do pen testing at your university or wherever, you have to get permission for that. Otherwise, it could be it could be criminal to do it on your own and start hacking people's stuff. I don't recommend you do that. You got to get formal written consent to do that kind of stuff. But that would be something, if you did get that consent, you could put that on your resume. So those are a few things that you could do.
Bruce,
Do you have any advice on that?
I would also say just try hackme.com. Just try
Oh
that. They
man,
have a lot of things you can practice with that. Trust me, I did it myself when I was in college. It gets you right. So try Hack Me also, I would suggest.
yeah, try Hack Me. So Chris said try Hack Me. That's a really great one. There's another one called Hack the Box.
Oh, Hack the Box.
That's
Yeah.
that's a good one. It starts you off on different levels. Starts you off on a beginner level. Like I think one of them, you gotta get into the site just to start. There's a thing that you have to do. They used to have it where you had to hack the actual front page, and it's actually kind of easy once they show you how to. Once you do it, you're like, oh, okay. You start to get the idea of what they're going after. But yeah, it has different levels all the way up into some like expert stuff where you're hacking, you're on a network, and you have to infiltrate the a network from the outside and then get into one of the systems that are on that network. Let me see. I got some more questions here. Oh, I see. Just skip the difficult questions. No, I'm sometimes there's just scrolling through. Let me see what cybersecurity certifications should I start with? Mando, it depends on what you're trying to do. Because there's in cybersecurity, there's many different certifications. If you're talking about cybersecurity, um, so okay, let me walk you through. So if you're an absolute beginner, and Chris, stop me if I'm wrong. If you have any extra insight into this, if you're an absolute beginner, you're not going to start off with what we're talking about normally. Typically, you're not going to start off with this. You're gonna go into something like an A+ certification. Like if you really don't know anything about computers, right? You don't have a degree, you haven't been to college, you haven't done digital forensics like my man Chris has done. You're just starting from nothing. You got to learn the lingo of what we're talking about, information technology. So I would recommend a CompTIA A+ to if you're a beginner. Now, if you've been on the help desk for some time, you've been to college or whatever, you got a bachelor's in whatever, in some kind of computer science, something you don't need. You could probably skip the A+, or you can go straight to Security Plus. Security Plus for cybersecurity is a great, better than entry level certification. Is highly marketable, and it can get you paid, but they're gonna want to get you. You're gonna have to get yourself some experience. Anything to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, I would also recommend that A plus is a great certification to break down the fundamentals. Because I think with that, they
Exactly.
break down how the computer works, all the acronyms, and everything. I would also recommend the Network Plus because if I had got the Network Plus, that's all we talk about is the network at my job. And they break down on these topologies and things like that. So I would recommend do the Network Plus too. All three of them are good, but the Network and A Plus will help get you the fundamentals that you need to be able to do your job the best you can.
Absolutely. So those are the three of the certifications I got to begin with. The Network Plus and the A+ are two of my first certifications. And I started off on help desk, and it helped me to understand the fundamentals of the network, um, the terminology of the network, and then I was able to upgrade to a CCNA. Like I went from a Network Plus, did some stuff on the network, understood the topology and IP configurations and all that kind of stuff, and then I went to CCNA, and that opened up a bunch of doors for me as well. Let me see here. Going through questions, and I think I missed some, so I'm kind of scrolling up on these different questions here. If you guys have, this is a great opportunity. You've got somebody who skipped the help desk and is now um, doing his thing as an information system security officer. This is a great field to get in. It's been stable for me for the past 14 odd years. I've been working from home for 7 of those years, so it's been really really rewarding, and this is an opportunity to talk to somebody who's doing it. Okay, let me see. I've got somebody on TikTok on YouTube asking me questions here. Leighton Kennedy says, "Do you ever get pressure to be to become an information system security manager, and is that something that you want to do?" Chris, I'll let you take that one, man.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to they try to get me to go on the government side to become an system security manager. Even though I've been working in the field for about 4 years, I think I still need a little bit more experience, and also I need to get my CSSP. I would love to be an ISM. I would love to mentor a lot of the ISOs, ISSEs. So I would love to be an ISM and just give people opportunities and also make sure the system is compliant because I started from the bottom. So when I get to the top, I want to make sure I know what's going on. So yeah, I would love to become an ISM. I'm working towards that right now.
Um, for me, that's a great question. So that's been something that has been offered a few times. An ISM type role. Now I'm working in the government, and typically, like Chris alluded to, the government really has that role. They're the ones who have the final say. So just and just let me back up a little bit. An information system security officer, an ISSO, is somebody who's doing the tasks to make sure there's that the organization's security level, their security posture, is in line with certain regulations. The government or the organization will have regulation A, B, and C. And what we're doing is making sure that they match A, B, and C, right? Just to put it as simple as possible. Now, information system security manager, an ISSM, is somebody who usually manages multiple information system security officers. So in addition to looking at the security posture of the organization, they're managing the people who are monitoring and measuring that security posture. So there are a lot of times they're in meetings, they're evaluating the work of the information security officers. They're in more of a leadership management type role. So a lot of times, sometimes they don't even have hands on. And they're in the government, it's somebody who is in a GS type position. I don't know if they call it GS, but they're actual civil servant getting paid directly from the Department of Defense or whatever. And that person is the one making the final decisions and stuff. That said, as a contractor, what will happen is I'll be doing the same job. Sometimes I'll be making those calls on it, but I don't make the final call. Like it'll be somebody above me who's the actual information security manager who says, yeah, yep, this is cool, this is not cool, or whatever. I have been approached to do that ISSM type work, and I I personally don't want to be a manager. I I don't want to. It's just extra work, and they wouldn't they wouldn't be able to pay me enough to do it. So a lot of times I kind of try to avoid it. But that said, I still end up doing some of it. Okay, let me see if I got any other questions. Thank you for that, Leighton. I appreciate that question. I'm looking for the hard questions here, sir, and I'm not finding them. Okay. Let me see. Somebody said they're bringing up poems. This is a great opportunity to explain poems. Lawrence said a poem isn't allowed in the new CMMC structure, and he says people that have a security plus isn't exactly dealing with poems and control. I disagree with that. So I don't know about your first statement saying that poems are not allowed in the new CMMC structure. I'm not a CMMC person, but I can tell you that in NIST 800 we use it quite heavily, and most of the people who are working on poems, at least in the departments I've worked in, have a security plus. Like you don't have to have a CISP to work on a security on poem. So, what's your take on that?
I agree. I agree with everything you said, Bruce. Because I was about to, I use poems every day. I'm like, what's going on?
What? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
so
what?
I'm like, huh?
What do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, a plan of action and milestone is a. Let me see if I can explain it in a minute. So what it is, for those who are on the outside looking in, typically we'll have vulnerabilities, right, in our environment. I give you a specific example, like the passwords. Like a password is a weak password. It's supposed to be 16, 20 characters long, whatever the hell they're saying now. But we found a system that only has 8 characters, and it doesn't use special characters. It doesn't use numbers. It's admin 123, right? So that's a vulnerability. And let's say for whatever reason we can't fix it immediately, right? So maybe if we try to fix it, it breaks this app that we created, and we really need to use that. We need to continue to use that app, but we can't change that password. So what we might do is a plan of action and milestone, which means we're going to have a plan that's going to have us taking action at certain steps, milestones. And that gets all of us on the same page, so that myself being the information security officer, I'm holding the meetings, I'm pulling in the system security person who's doing the actual server configurations, I'm talking to the app developers, everything. Now, plan of action milestone doesn't mean that you don't have security. What'll happen is you'll usually have compensating controls. So you have other controls that are involved in this protection, because having a weak password, that's pretty big, right? But maybe what it is we have something, a compensating control, where we don't expose it to the rest of the network. Maybe we have it on an isolated air gapped system. It's on a whole different, so it's not even connected to anything. It's just an app sitting on that computer, right? And maybe you even have to log into Windows 11 just to get to that app, right? So that's a plan of action and milestone in a nutshell. Let me see if I have any other questions or statements here that we can address. Um, Let me see. Somebody said just get the AI to get a clearance and you're good to go.
I wish that was simple like that.
Yeah. Well, actually, you make a good. You're probably joking, but you make a great point because once you have it, once we start using AI in clear environments, like if you could use a large language model in a top secret environment, it would be dealing with top secret information. So while it's not going to get a clearance, once once it's using top secret information, you wouldn't be able to move that system off to a clear to an unclassed environment because it's using all the classified information unless you're just using the code itself without the actual classified information. It have to be stuck in that environment.
Yeah, you know how the government move.
Yeah.
Might
Let
take
me.
some years.
Yeah, I'm sure. Actually, what's crazy is one of the environments I'm using right now. They allow Copilot. So on the browser, and see if I don't know if this might not be the case in your environment, but the one I'm working on is a government environment, and they're allowing us we can use Copilot. It's right there. It's on the browser. They haven't
I got
restricted.
you.
I was surprised. I'm like,
Like,
okay,
what's going on? Okay.
like all right, all right. So I'm not getting a lot of questions right now. Let me see. Wait, I just got one. Let me see. Somebody said palms are required on all of our projects.
Yep. I did want to say something do too, Bruce. I would just say
Yeah,
for people that want to, and I didn't mention it earlier, like if people want to practice with STIGs, just learn stuff about DoD and just get access to free training. Go on cyber.mil. It's a free website anybody can access. I just want to make sure people can check that out too, because you can download Stig Viewer, Stigs, things like that on that website, and you don't have to
absolutely.
have a cat card to get
Yep.
access to it.
Yeah, I made a video about a year or so ago where I downloaded the Stig viewfinder. I mean viewfinder. I downloaded a Stig viewer, and then I actually was walking through how to implement a Stig. So you can do that at home. Like you can set up a system, set up a virtual environment, or have your computer there. Download Stigs from cyber.mil, just like Chris said. Go to they have a couple of tools that you can use. One's called Stig Viewer, and there's another one where it actually will implement the security features
That
called,
tool.
I think so. Yeah, I can't off the top of my head, I can't remember what it is. Anyway, they got tools there that you can mess around with the Stigs and actually implement them. And then that's another thing that you could say, I'm familiar with it. I've done 3 or 4 of them. If once you get into that interview. Okay, let me see. Somebody said, "Oh, look at this. Can we get a part 2 with you and Chris? This is great." It's
That's
up to
good to
Chris,
hear.
man.
It's whatever you want, Bruce. I'll be on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, I wouldn't be. Your courses helped me out. So the reason I'm here to talk is because you. I know you don't want to hear it, but as I'm being honest.
I appreciate you, Chris, man.
Yeah,
Somebody said, "I hate Copilot in the browser. The chance of information leak is 100%." Yeah, the reason why is because if you're using but you could argue the same thing about a browser, right? Like if you're searching if you go on, you're using YouTube to search for a certain vulnerability, which I do quite a bit. I'm not going to put specific information. Like I'm not going to put IP addresses in there. Of course, I'm not going to put any DNS names in there. Even if it's an unclassed environment, I'm not going to put that stuff in there. That's foolish. But um, if you're just putting the vulnerability of, like, say, Windows 10 has a vulnerability, an upgrade on Windows 10 or an upgrade on Office 365 or something, and you just want to know more information, that's common information. It's common information. Everybody knows that it's on their website. It's publicly available information. You could put that in Copilot and research it. The issue is some people who just don't know any better, and they're going to put an IP address or a fully qualified domain name in there that's supposed to be internal, and they're putting it out on the internet. Same difference. And if you use Copilot, it's still on the internet. You're still putting that information. So just don't put classified information or unclassified sensitive government information on the internet.
Yeah, you might have somebody
Let's
knocking on
see.
your door.
Yeah, something, man. Leighton said, did my hard question. Okay. Now for the stupid question. Any tips on resume stuff for an information security officer? I work as one in .mil, but I'm having trouble writing it down. So what I do from time to time, Leighton, is I'll take people's resume and I'll just put my 2 cents on it, and I'll run it through. I've made like a GPT on Chat GPT that does ATO style resumes for cybersecurity. I run it through that and I'll read it myself and see. But I can't do that for everybody. For a while I was, and it was too much. I tried charging people, and it was still too much. So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So every now and then I'll do it. But what you can do right now, right? And I'll let Chris chime in after this. What you can do right now is, number one, you can go on LinkedIn. You can check out my resume is open to the public on LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn, go to Bruce space CISSP space RMF. You'll see my profile and my resume. All that stuff is on my all it has keywords on it, all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, you can actually go to LinkedIn and type in GRC, cybersecurity, SOC analyst, whatever role you're trying to do. And instead of looking for jobs, look for people, and then go through the people and look at other people's publicly available resumes to see what keywords they're using. Look at the top 10, because that's going to give you an idea of what kinds of roles people are putting, what kind of keywords people are putting. And that's the kind of stuff that you want to look for. Now, what you can also do is go to convocourses.com. I have a free resume. You can download my resume for free, and it has templates for free, and you can just see how I word my stuff, and that's a couple of different places you can use. Chris, you have any advice on getting a better resume?
Yeah, that was the main thing that helped me get a job. Because I've noticed the more I fixed my resume, the quicker I got to getting my job. I went from just talking to the recruiter to eventually getting to the PM. So what I would first do, this is exactly what I did. First thing, I would just reach out to your friends that's in GRC just to get a copy of their resume, compare it to yours. I think with the government, I think it's RTS format. Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. You got
You could be right. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it has to follow a certain format. So when you put it in to Indeed, the bot 9 out of 10, a lot of these recruiters, when you get to them, they don't even read your resume. So it has to hit certain points or hit certain keywords to get to these recruiters. Like for example, EMAS, STIGs, POAMs. Like if that's all of your skills, then it would be more attractive to recruiters. And then also what I used to do too, I didn't understand how to write a GRC resume. So what I would do is go on Google, I would go to images, and I would just type in information system security officer resume, or I would just type in GRC resume. And it'll pull up all these resumes which you can mimic that follow RTS format, just so you can know how to write your resume for yourself. But like Bruce said, just
ATS
go into
style
the
resume. Sorry.
is it
Yeah,
is it what?
ATS style resume.
Okay, that's good. And that's pretty much all I did. Just put all those keywords, EMAS, STIGs, and what we're saying, poems, and just going Indeed. And just like it's like Bruce said, just follow people that's in the field on LinkedIn. Just see what's on their resume. But that's
Yep.
pretty much it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Other keywords you can use besides EMAS and some of the other ones Chris mentioned will be risk management framework, NIST 800, especially if you're in this GRC field, information system security officer, ISSO, ISSM. Right? I'm not telling you to lie in your resume or anything. I'm telling you, like, look at what other people have and use those keywords where you can. There's little tricks you can do. Like, let's say you don't have a CISSP, right? You don't want to put I have a CISSP on there. You don't have, but you can say I'm working on my CISSP, right? If that's the case, if you happen to be if you're working on your CISM, you could put that on your resume. Working on my CISM. If you don't have a bachelor's degree, you can say working on my bachelor's degree with the University of X, Y, and Z to be completed 2025. You can put that on there. So that those are like little tricks you can use to put it on there. Another thing you can do is familiar with NIST 800, familiar with ISO 27001. Now, Granted, you should be familiar with it before you put that on your resume because they will ask you for it.
They will. They
They
will.
will ask you for it, especially if it's something huge like cloud. That was one of the ones all I did was mention that we had a cloud platform, and they were every interview they were asking me about cloud. I'm like, damn, like maybe I shouldn't mention it because I'm not a cloud guy. All right, let me see. Let's see if we got some. Brazilian said, I'm seeing a lot of issues around this, writing an SOP or even rough drafting. How do you recommend doing that? Go ahead, Chris. You got this one.
Yeah, for me, when I first got into the field, we had templates that we used to create SOPs and documents. It's templates, but it just takes a lot of research. If you're trying to create like plans, like for example, not the ISCP, SSP. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to create like an SSP, the NIST guidelines will kind of guide you on how to write it. But for me, when I got into the job, they usually have templates. There's a website for templates. I'm not sure if it's still accurate, but I was told not to use it. But it's usually templates your job usually gives you to help you write it, and the NIST guidelines help you guide you to write some of these plans also. What about you, Bruce? I was curious on your side too.
Yeah, no problem. So first of all, I've got if you go to convocourses.com, um, shameless plug, full disclosure. Go to convocourses.com. I've got a free downloadables to give you an idea of what they look like. So, like Chris was saying, if you use those templates, it starts to give you an idea of what you're supposed to have uh, in your environment. So that goes for SOPs, that goes for policies, it goes for system security plans, um, all that stuff. So POAMs, plan of action and milestones. The thing is, just like Chris said, usually when you go to a new environment, now I've worked for the financial sector, I've worked for purely private sector, I've done all these different industries, right? And one thing I've noticed is that normally organizations, especially high, mid to large organizations, they have their own template. So they don't want you to just grab one off the internet. Usually they have their own, and you just build off the template that they have. That said, if you're trying to just learn this, you can just grab templates that other people have. Look at other organizations like there's different departments out there. Different states will put their whole policy online, for example, because there's no sensitive information on there. There's no private information, nothing like that. It's just telling like yea verily we do X, Y, and Z, and it just tells you how they're securing in a very broad way. That's not getting anything away. They're telling you how they plan what their policy is for security throughout their campus, and the universities do this. You can find them at state departments for individual states, for some of the utilities departments, just to get an idea of what it looks like. You can do this for ISO 27001 policies, for NIST 800, NIST CSF. There's all these templates out there that you can look at and mess around with to give you an idea of how they look, and then maybe even write your own just to mess around with it. Another thing you can do is use ChatGPT just to get an idea of what the template looks like, um, and then go from there and build from there.
I did want to get on your book. I've been hearing a lot of ISSO's been using it to create templates lately, so I might have to hop on that too,
You
just to
gotta
create
check
the
it out.
template. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible actually. Let me see here. Let me see if I got more questions or comments. Okay, somebody said, I don't know if this is okay. It's a question. I'm in the process for a TSSCI with a master's in cybersecurity. What's my earning potential? What? Okay, there's a couple things on this. What state are you in? What is the job description? How much experience do you have? All of those things are going to be factors. For example, Chris lives in the DMV area. His upper level for a job like you just mentioned with a TSSCI is going to be much higher than mine. I'm living in Colorado. Now it depends on a couple things. Like depends on, am I a manager? Am I an architect? Am I on the help desk doing cybersecurity? Where am I at? So it it's beyond those factors you mentioned. It's beyond just having a master's in cybersecurity, and it's beyond having a TSEI. There's a couple other factors that are going to determine your earning potential. What would you say about that, Chris?
Yeah, I would agree. It just depends on where you at. Like, for example, Colorado, it's kind of close, but I'm gonna just say like North Carolina, for example. ISSO might make like for that they might. I'm just saying hypothetically with the experience and everything, you might because the cost of living is low down there. So yeah, you got to factor in your experience, certifications, even degrees, and it just you gotta and what you're trying to do to factor. Like in the DMV, I would say for an ISO, a starting ISO in a DMV with no experience, I say probably around 75 to 80K. And I say with a mid-level ISO, they can get around in the DMV, depending 5 to 10 years of experience, probably about 100 to 150K. And then I say of the upper echelons with ISOs, I think the max I've seen was around 200K. But it just depends on your experience and what you know and what you can bring to the table.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I'm just taking a look um, at what they're saying here on online. ZipRecruiter saying as of 2024, the average annual salary for a master's cybersecurity in U.S. was 132,000 a year. But I honestly, I don't know that that's accurate because you have to factor in a person's experience. They're not even going to hire you without a certain level of experience, or there's certain features that they're looking for when you have a master's in cybersecurity. Because a lot of times, some of the jobs you can land with a master's degree is going to be like you can be a manager like with a master's degree in certain roles I've seen. You can be a manager, but they're looking for experience. They're not going to just hire somebody to be a manager if you have no experience. You know what I mean? So that said, what I would do if I were you is figure out where you can fit in, get in where you like fit in. You know what I mean? Like, here's what I'm saying. If you have no experience, you do have a master's degree. So what you might be able to do is get an internship or an apprenticeship. So, um, in those jobs, they're not going to pay a lot to begin with. But that said, if you can put in a couple, about a year's worth of work with your master's degree and a TSSEI and some experience, you're you're gonna very quickly go up the scale, like from where you're at.
And Bruce, I would also say too, I had a top secret, and I had a master's degree in a security plus with no experience. And I would just give
Wow.
you in my entry level salary. I was only making 75K. So I don't think that's accurate. It's more about the experience of what you're saying. Because when I started entry level, I had a master's degree, top secret, and a clearance. And I was only getting 75K. And I would just say, for people just trying to get into the field, you got to humble yourself and take a salary to get you the experience because you'll get the money later on. So humble
Exactly.
yourself and just take it, whoever it is.
Exactly. Exactly. I hope you heard that because that was very wise advice. So get in where you can. Like that experience, I keep telling people, experience is king. Like it's the certifications are great, but I think that it's a little overhyped in that they don't take into account that they're looking for experience for you to have, right? And I'm not telling you don't get a degree. A degree is awesome. It's very competitive. I'm not telling you not to get a certification. I talk about a lot about I got a bunch of certifications, but that experience is king. Like it's above all things. So I've met people with just an experience with no certifications, no degree, and they were making bank. As a matter of fact, my first two mentors, neither one of them had a degree. They had some like industry, they had some industry vendor certs and stuff. They were just really, really brilliant people. And I had all the certs and degrees and stuff, and they weren't impressed. They were running circles around me. And
Right.
like Chris said, I had to be humble. I had to just learn, and then and I did, and I just kept leveling up. So
And then
let me see here.
and then too, Bruce, too, like when I get on interviews now, they don't even ask about the security plus. They only care about what I know. They don't even ask about the degrees. They forget it's there, just to throw double
Exactly.
down on that.
Exactly. And Chris, have you heard this one before? You get in the interview and they say, "Oh, tell me about yourself. Like, what's your experience doing plan of action and milestones?" They're not looking for you to say, "Well, I have a security plus, like I have a master's degree." They're looking for you to say, "Well, actually, I've done about 100 POAMs, plan of action and milestones. At my last two jobs, between my last two jobs, I've done about 100 of them. And that might sound impressive, but we had thousands of POAMs. And we had a few that were in a classified environment. We had a few that were in an unclassified environment. And the experience that I had was I had to write them. We had to input those into EMAS, and then we had to follow through. Now we completed at least 50% of those. We completed 65% of those, and I had to work with all the stakeholders in order to complete those plan of action and milestones. They're looking for your experience.
I agree.
That's what they're looking for.
They don't care. They don't care about nothing else about what you know how to do.
They care about what you've done, uh, if you can do the job, because they're expecting you to come in there and hit the ground running.
And one more thing, Bruce, too. A lot of people want to get 100K. A lot of people want to get six figures. But you got to understand, like, if you don't know how to do the job, you'll be out of there in like a month or less because you're an investment to them. And
90
if
days.
they're not getting their investment, you're out of there. So if you want to get that six figures, get it, but make sure you know how to do the work too.
Exactly. Exactly. You got to think long term. Like, think about where you want to be in the next 5 years. Don't just think about that payday, that, that 10,000 a month or whatever it is. That gross 10,000 a month sounds great, but think about where are you and your family going to be in the next 10 years. You want a job that's going to be stable. You want to be an engineer. You want to be a technician who has staying power, right? Not necessarily with that individual company, but in this market. Because even if your contract runs out or whatever, you want to be able to go to another job and be even more valuable than you were before. Think long term. Okay, let me see here. Let me see if I have more questions here. Um, Okay, I already got that one. Let me see this. Okay, somebody said my internship was 4,700 for 4 months, and then after the TSSCI 95K. Still doing the bachelor's degree. So great advice, man. That's great, man.
Yeah.
Great data. Let me see here. Going through TikTok, see if there's any other questions. This is a great opportunity, guys. I've got Chris from TechWoke here. He's a podcaster on YouTube. Check him out. Link in description, link in bio. And he is an information system security officer. This is a rare opportunity to talk to somebody who bypassed the help desk and is now doing quite well for himself in the DMV area. If you have any questions whatsoever, this is the man to contact. This is the man to add to your subscriber list and ask him questions. Let me see. What languages would you say are primarily used for cybersecurity? Um, I believe John Taylor is talking about programming languages. What
Okay.
programming languages have you seen,
The
Chris?
main the main one I've seen is mainly as Python and what's that AWS one? What's it called? I forgot the name of it, but I do know Python. I know they use Python a lot. I forgot what that one was called. JSON? Was it called JSON?
Might be,
Yeah, something like
might
that.
be.
Yeah, but that I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't deal with too much of the programming stuff. I'm kind of, like I said, on the compliance side. That's kind of what I do. But I do see Python stuff like that, but I don't really know too much about what's going on in the language.
Python is used quite a bit. No, let me back up. So I do not use this in my job. It's not a job requirement for me to know programming. I'm not a programmer, whatsoever. Right. Anytime I do HTML code, I have to Google how to do a link again. Like I forget. You know what I mean? But that said, like being in this field for quite some time, and working with other cybersecurity professionals, Python is used, like Chris just said. Python's used quite a bit in our, because we're having to send large amounts of data from this system to that system, or we need to format a whole bunch of data at once from this system to this database over here. And so we normally have like a cybersecurity guy or an IT guy on who's there, and we'll consult with them, and then they'll like devise something. But usually it's PowerScript. Scripting language is not really a language per se, but scripting would be PowerScript, Python, JSON is another one. I don't even know if that's a language. And
I'm not
then
sure. I'm not
somebody
sure on
mentioned
that one. Yeah,
regex.
not
Yeah,
sure on that one.
regex. Um, Let me see here. Other questions. Okay, I don't know if we did you work at USCG? Oh, U.S. Coast Guard.
Oh, not
Uh,
me.
I've never worked in Coast Guard. I worked for Air Force at one time, DoD, Army. Um, not the Coast Guard. A little bit of the Navy, and that's about it. Let's see. And then some security experts said in the cloud, it's the cybersecurity AI related area. It's definitely Python. I have to agree, and PowerShell. Yeah,
And
those are the ones
Paris.
that. Yeah, right. Even right now, that's one of the things. We're working with another part of our team, our information security engineers. They've got some coding skills, and so we'll talk to them, and those guys are using Python mainly and a little bit of PowerScript. Let me see other comments, questions, complaints. Let me see here. So Lawrence said we use a lot of PowerShell for AWS.
Okay, okay, understood.
One really great thing about this community is that I always meet people who know way more than myself, and then I end up learning some stuff. I love that, actually.
Yeah, I
I
just
actually
learned
love
something
that.
myself.
Let me see here. I'm scrolling through some of these comments on TikTok. Lawrence said, we'll be retired before they let people use AI in TS in top secret areas.
I agree 100%. It's gonna probably take 100 years, maybe longer. Because even the cloud been around for like at least 40 years, and I think they're just starting to get into it now.
I I think I think like we'll be using it real soon. I think we'll be using it in our environment real soon. I don't think it's going to take over jobs. And the reason I say that is because I see things like EMAS, things like ServiceNow, Jira, Tenable, and Microsoft operating systems, Mac OS. All of these tools that we use to do our work are going to integrate AI, but not in a way that's going to they'll integrate the large language model like uh the chat feature of AI to where we can use it to our advantage. I can see them integrating that, and it'll just be a tool that enhances our job, right? But I don't think it's going to be an immediate replacement of what we're doing. I just don't I don't I think it will replace some jobs out there. I think it will, but like some part maybe editing or something will get much easier to do because I'm already using some of those tools. But in the field, like in the actual Department of Defense and in banking, here's the problem. There's a certain level of assurance that you have to have. That means confidence in what you're doing. Like there's certain systems, weapon systems we have that if you use it and somebody dies based off of some AI,
I agree.
like that's a lot of risk to be taken. I'm not saying that our government I'm not saying that people wouldn't be irresponsible do some shit like that because I'm totally think that they would. But before, think of it like this: if you have a financial institution, right, and you are using an AI to do trading on multi-million-dollar deals, and it's like cranking out bangers, like you're making millions, millions, and then one day it messes up the portfolio and you guys lose $500 million, right? And then who's accountable for that? The
Yeah.
AI? It's assurance. Like assurance is huge in cybersecurity, just like in finances. So the level of assurance that you have to use some tool that you just to let it go on its own is crazy. So that's the reason why it's going to take a while for them to just start replacing people with AI in our field anyway.
Yeah, because I've seen it like have you heard of UiPath has a lot of tools, and I've seen it. It takes a lot of time to implement it, and then too, like I've seen it done, like create, do patches or something small like that. But you can just script that. A lot of times you can script that type of stuff, or things like that. But is it really necessary? And then too, I work with a lot of engineers, and they don't want it because eventually it's going to learn over time how to do their stuff. But like I said, it's going to take a very long time to. And then too, even me, I use ChatGPT to create timestamps for videos. A lot of the times it messes up for that. Would I really want to trust that for like an aircraft carrier or something like that? It can mess up any time. Would you want to take that risk? No, I wouldn't want to take that risk either.
Absolutely. And another huge risk that I'm seeing, I use it quite a bit. Like it's an awesome tool, but it'll just like, I'll give you an example. Like, what I'll do is I'll write a piece, right? I'll write something for one of my books or something. And then I'll put it into ChatGPT and I'll say, tell me what's wrong with this statement. And sometimes it'll get risk management framework wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, are you sure about that? Like it'll miss a step in risk management framework. And me being a subject matter expert on this, I spot it right away. I'm like, whoa, wait, whoa. You missed a step here. And it'll say, oh, I'm sorry about that. Let me fix that. And then it'll fix it. I'm like, like you can't, if you're doing banking or large amounts of money or risking people's lives on a weapon system or
Yeah, I would.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Like
it's
you said, you can
hallucinating.
monitor it. We can monitor it, but not yet.
Not yet. Okay. ZZ says, what knowledge do you have to know about cloud in your role? Go ahead, Chris.
Just kind of like the basics, how it works, things like that. To be very, very honest, I'm studying it now to learn it a little bit better. Getting my entry level AWS certs, but just kind of like the basics for now. But that's just what I know for right now. You can go ahead on Bruce on your part.
So in a previous role that I had, we were doing something called FedRAMP.
No
And
favorite.
FedRAMP is just it's the government's it's the government's compliance of commercial off the shelf products like AWS and AWS or Azure or whatever. Choose your technical solution for cloud, right? So what the government does is they'll go. It basically is all it is, Chris, is risk management framework with the word FedRAMP. They have a couple extra steps in there that you have to do for FedRAMP, but it's really just risk management framework. Um, it's just risk management framework. So what do I have to know for cloud? I have to understand what that technology, what's the difference between a cloud-based system and an on-premises system. Like what, because there's different technical challenges and different security issues with those. Like if our organization has a server in a closet and we know physically where it is, we have to make sure that the physical security is in place. We have to make sure that all the logical um, uh, solutions are in place to protect that information. The network security, if we do, are we encrypting the data back and forth? Is it data at rest, encrypted, all this stuff? Um, and where it is, what's the location, how many servers are in the rack, all of the software, hardware on it. Now, in the cloud, if it's in the cloud, that means it's on another server somewhere else. I have to understand the difference between those two things, right? Because those questions will come up. Because if another organization is holding that system and holding our data on that system, there's a whole nother batch of things that I have to do. Like I have to coordinate with that organization, and maybe they have their own physical. Hopefully, they have their own physical security. They have their own security features. Now I have to incorporate and inherit some of their security for to protect our information. So I have to understand the difference between a system that we have in our closet here and the parts of the system that are out in the cloud. But I don't have to know like how to install AWS. I don't even know the differences between like I can't break down the difference between an Azure system and an AWS system. Like I wouldn't be able to install it. If it broke, I'd be like, well, I guess it's broke because I'm not going to do anything. I don't have enough knowledge to. Should I? I mean, the more I know, the better. But
Yeah, I'm in a new program now, and that's we're doing AWS, so I have to get the knowledge on. I'm getting the knowledge now, so come back to me in a couple months. I got you. Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay, let me see another question here from Mike. He says, "Okay, cool. Question: how often would you suggest to do a system scan? I'm dealing with the government folks who want to do it weekly, every 2 weeks, weekly, or monthly. What would you say about that one, Chris?"
It just depends on where your environment is. I know for my environment, we do it weekly. There was another thing. What's it called? We was just dealing with something recently. I forgot the name of it, but we was trying to figure out when to scan that. What's it called? Do you know? Do you know, Bruce? Like when you put for example, everything in. I'll come back to you on that. But for my system, we just do it weekly. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up to you, Bruce, later. But we do it weekly here.
Yeah, no problem. So it would depend on what the organization's policy is. Number one, the organization makes that determination. But one thing I've noticed, just to kind of a couple issues. For one, um, if the scans are going to interrupt business and mission operations, you don't want to be doing scans when you're the main bulk of your business is being done. So a lot that's why a lot of times, whether it's weekly or monthly or whatever, the frequency of the scanning shouldn't interrupt the actual business operations of what you're doing. So whether it's been private sector or the public sector, government or whatever, that's one thing I've noticed that they'll do is that they won't, for example, they'll scan the server separate than when they scan the workstations. Because and the reason why is because if you're doing a scan on the workstations, right, Monday through Friday or once a week or whatever, and you're doing it at the end of the day when people are already going home or whatever, and it's just once a week, that's cool. But think about it like this: if you have a server and your server's 24 hours a day because everybody's hitting it, everybody's using it, and you scan it, and now you've put an extra burden on that server, and you can't, like, your operations slow down, right? Whether you're processing payments or you're processing logistics overseas or whatever, it's it's going to take some of the resources of your system. So what I've noticed is in all environments I've worked in, private or public, the servers will be done once a week. Your workstations or whatever, you could do those every 3 days or something. You can do those twice a week or whatever, right? Usually at the end of the day, the time frame is also important. The end of the day when everybody's gone, or maybe you have you have systems all over the world, so the time zone is going to be different. But end of the day when people are gone, and then servers, maybe once a week on the weekends, something like that. So I hope that gives you some insight. Let me see here. And I'm not gonna take too many more questions here. I'm not sure. Let me see. It says so. These are LLMs. Anything LLM. These are offline implementations of large language models like ChatGPT, and are currently being used in banks and law firms, etc. That's what's up. Like this is where LLMs are gonna go right here, where you have silos where they're not directly connected. These large language models, these AI versions, are not connected to the internet. Like you're gonna have your own. You have a law firm, and they have their own instance of a large language model like Llama, or there's got a couple of them that you can literally download onto a server, and you have your own version of it, and you can feed it your own information, but it's not connecting directly to the internet because that's what you need to have a more secure version of AI. Let me see here. Let me get a couple more questions, and then we're we'll call it quits for today. But thank you guys so much for participating. I really appreciate you, Chris.
Yeah, this is fun. I enjoyed everybody. I think I need to start doing a live chat on my side too. Just to get
Yeah,
new
it's
people
live,
watching.
man. Like every now and then, crazy stuff will happen live. So, okay. Ambitious Hack says, can you be an ISO as your first cyber role, Chris?
Yeah, you can. That was my first cyber role, and it's still my
Wow.
current cyber role. So I just got lucky. I don't know how I did it. It was during the pandemic, but like I said, I just followed the steps. I just checked out the role, see if I can get the experience for the role, added it to my resume, and then too, just telling them, hey, I don't have no experience. Hey, can you give me opportunity? I'm willing to work. And that's what I did for that whole year. I grinded it out for a whole year, meaning if I had to work late, come in weekends, but it's extremely hard to do it as your first role unless you know somebody or know somebody that can kind of teach you what they did to get to the role. But if I didn't have my friends, colleagues, and if I didn't have a mentor, I wasn't able to sustain the role. So I had mentors that helped guide me to this day. So you can do it.
That's awesome. That's what's up. And if you guys didn't know, this is Chris from TechWoke. Go ahead and subscribe to him. He's on. Are you on TikTok?
Yeah, I'm on
He's on.
TikTok. I'm on YouTube. Yeah, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. So check it out, TechWoke. Type it on TikTok. Go on YouTube. Type in TechWoke Podcast. Go on Instagram, TechWoke Podcast. Just check it out. We talk to a lot of different people in the field of cybersecurity, and we just tell them the raw, unfiltered, or what I like to call it blood raw, on how they got into the field and just their experience. No, we don't usually talk about how you can make the money. The money comes at some point, but it's kind of like how to get into the field and how to sustain the field. So check it out.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for joining us, man. I really appreciate you. Um, that's it for today, guys. We did about 1 hour, actually an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh,
Damn,
that was good.
time just flew.
That was fun. I
and
enjoyed every bit about it.
actually, and tomorrow, if you guys are interested, sign up for Tech Woke. I'm gonna be on this channel tomorrow because that was part of the deal, the package deal. That he'd come on my channel, and here he is, and now I'm gonna come on his channel. What time are we doing it tomorrow, by the
But
way?
we're gonna do it at the same time, but yours is gonna come out Tuesday. So I usually it's not live, so I edit it, do everything. But yours is gonna come out Tuesday. But we're gonna definitely do it for tomorrow, just to kind of pick Bruce's brain because Bruce has 20 years of experience, and some of the questions I have for him. I got some
Yeah,
questions for him that I see how he breaks down things, just to just suck all that little experience, just to help help everybody. And then some of it's a little selfishly, like how did you get here, so it can help my career. So
all right, all right. Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you guys for watching on TikTok, which is gonna be ending soon. See you later, TikTok. TikTok's about to get closed down, apparently. Now we'll
we'll
see.
see. We'll see.
What do you think about that, by the way?
I don't think they're gonna get rid of TikTok. That would be a fool to get rid of TikTok. TikTok makes so much money, and I wouldn't get rid of TikTok. If they do get about it, there's gonna be a strike.
Something's gonna happen. I'm interested. I'm like seeing what's gonna happen. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
See,
All right, guys. See you later. See you later, Chris. Thanks,
I
man.
think
Good to talk to you.